Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev Briz and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And good morning, dear ones. Reverend Robert with you here.
Reverend Z on this end.
And we're a couple of ministers talking shit. I'm practicing how to say that and not say that. Do you guys mind? Is anybody out there watching mind? I know you're watching. Thanks for watching. It's Friday morning. It's time for another episode of this program. And this is episode number 21. We're calling this Next Steps. And before we dive in, we want to say a quick thank you to the New Thought Media Network for making all of this happen. New Thought Media, most positively inspiring media network on the planet. And we're happy to be a part of that network and to bring you this program each and every week. It's an opportunity for Z and I to look at what's going on in the world, what we'd like to see differently, and to do it and to have a conversation through a spiritual lens, through the spiritual lens of New Thought, of religious science, science of mind, whatever name you want to give it. So, Z, this week we're talking about next steps. And,
yes, sir.
I think this is pretty important because it seems like, for me at least, and here in Colorado in a lot of ways, the next step was to go back to the way it was. It's like everybody just started acting like they were acting in August of last year, or it's like nothing seems to have changed.
No.
What are your thoughts?
No, I was sitting there, I was speechless there for a minute, because I even heard of people saying, oh yeah, we need to go school shopping for clothes, not supplies. Okay, I know you need supplies, but people were saying, oh yeah, we got to go school shopping to get new clothes. I'm like, why? You're not going, most of this stuff is home. And you're going to buy these things and yada yada yada. But as you said, that's just an example to show how the mindset has not shifted, and we begin to see. I just heard here in our local area that a high school that was doing hybrid or had gone back, a third of their teachers rather, are now in quarantine. So now they have to shut the school down because they don't have enough teachers and they can't get substitutes.
Wow.
So next steps is very valid. And that's because not only do we have the educational piece that we need to prepare for, but we have the normal cold and flu season coming up. Sports season is coming up. All of the holidays that happen during this last part of the year are coming up. So we have to get a next step program in place, or else, this could go on for a long time.
Yeah. We, before the program, folks, we were kind of chatting, and as we normally do, and we realized that at the beginning of the year, 2020 was it was all about perfect vision. I'm going to have 2020 vision this year, and everything's going to be beautiful and clear. And we're going to see well, it turns out that 2020 is more about the opportunity to cast a vision for what it is we want to experience and what we want to see, more so than looking around. And in some ways, I think, I guess now that I say it, we really did gain some 2020 vision.
Yeah.
I got a lot clearer vision of the racists within the organizations that I belong to. I get a lot clearer vision of how easy it is to manipulate the American population, at least a vast portion of them, into believing anything that any kind of good old conspiracy that comes down the road. We're ready to believe anything anymore.
Yeah. And I've also gotten clear that the current political systems and support systems that are supposedly here for the populace have somehow been skewed for certain segments of the total population, and how easily they can be become a propaganda tool, unfortunately, as opposed to being a institution or a place that provides guidance and help and clarity on how certain things should be conducted or handled or kept in a certain uh, mode that affects people for the good and not for the bad.
Yeah. It's almost as if everything got flipped over. The 20 went in the back and the 20 from the back went in the front. We got total flip-flop because people are more outraged yesterday over a politician getting a haircut, a blow dry, a blowout, rather than a politician encouraging an entire state of people to break the law.
Correct.
Things don't feel, don't seem, and don't appear to be operating according to the universal laws we used to know.
No, and that's because, in my opinion, all of our systems, I won't say all of our systems, a lot of our systems have now become hijacked by people or small groups of people for their personal pleasure, if you will, for their personal directions, for their personal gain in some cases, for their personal platform to spew their ideas personally, where they're supposed to be keeping the populace in mind. And so now, or for financial sustaining platform for the organization itself, and like in some cases with school systems.
Right.
And so now we're at this point where we need to figure out the next steps, because everybody's frustrated, right? Those of us who wants to be a little more conscious, if you will, about how we move forward in this. Then you have those who are just like, let's just move forward. I mean, we got the spectrum, whether we like the spectrum or not. We got the whole spectrum of life that we're dealing with here. And somehow the right, the left, the middle, and anything in between, we need to come together and figure out next steps that's going to allow all of us to express ourselves in healthy, and I mean physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritual ways, that we can continue to evolve as a people, as a society, and find some balance in our lives.
Yeah. And folks, we get it. We understand. This is a really big question. And as far as I know, society has never really been to this point where all of the major systems, from my perspective, are crumbling and cracking and breaking down under the stress of hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Hundreds of years of racism and oppression, hundreds of years of mismanagement and greed and avarice, hundreds of years of screw you, I got to get mine, and I'm going to get mine first, and the heck with everybody else. It's I saw a post yesterday, right? The percentage of small businesses that have had to go out of business in the last 5 months compared to the amount of gain that some very uber rich people have made during these 5 months, the disparity is there again. It is fully right in our face again.
And you bring your point up, and I'm sorry I didn't go to cut you off, but yesterday or the day before yesterday, the stock market closed at 29,000. That was a high. I don't think it had ever been that high, right? So now we have a stock market high in a pandemic, where I was just waiting to hear the numbers for unemployment. I'm sure they're out by now. And they were expecting to go, to gain maybe 1 million, somewhere 1.2 million, but they're still down. They're still talking about double-digit unemployment, but the stock market is at an all-time high. Now, who's making that money?
And definitely not the middle class.
Not the middle class.
Not my 401k didn't change very much.
No.
And then yesterday was what they called the great sell-off. And I saw it last night. Everybody's, what are you buying today? Right?
Yes.
And there's people, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy that, I'm going to buy that, I'm going to buy this. Folks, we're opening a whole nother rabbit hole here.
Yeah.
But I personally have never seen the stock market as an avenue of wealth creation. I've seen it as an avenue where wealth is moved from the middle class to the upper class. And we may very well be on the verge of the collapse of the stock market as we know
Yeah, I mean,
it.
there's a possibility because the stock prices, and I do a little, playing in the market a little bit just to keep my wits about me. And the challenge is in a time like this where, yeah, some of the prices have come down, but the cost to get in, it's like going to a game that used to cost $5 to get in, but it now costs $10 to get in. And I've been saving to get my 5, and doggone it, you just raised the price to 10. I still can't get in, right? So I've done
Yeah,
my homework and so forth, but I'm still out.
right.
And
Yep.
and that's where and so when we look at, and then just one more thing, we look at that whole case in New York where a brother calls in the law enforcement to help assist him with his brother who's having a mental episode.
Yeah.
And he calls 911 and said, look, my brother's having an episode, I need some help. They come in, and then his brother's killed. And so just wanted to highlight to say, here again, we still need to find some next steps, which is what this program, because we're still seeing places in economics, law enforcement, education, political, housing, because now the housing bans in some places are being ended, but they're trying to, I think the CDC just put something out saying, well, you can't put people out until January. You can't do any evictions till January, which, okay, I get it. It's going to be winter in some places where it's going to be cold, and you don't want to have more people on the street. But now the people who have to pay the mortgages, they still got to figure out how to pay the mortgage. We've got this thing so integrated, people are not realizing that. And now we're going to get into the thick of it because we need to figure out what are the next steps.
Right. And remember, folks, we're not tax professionals. We're not investment professionals. We're not in health and human and housing department or any of those things. We're spiritual. We like to look at. We look at this, all of these from that spiritual perspective that says, okay, if there really is only one power, one presence, one intelligence, and we're going to call that God. Now you can call that anything you want. Call that power Buddha, Brahma, Vishnu, Kuan Yin. Call it George. Just don't call me late to dinner, please. Whatever it might. Oh, sorry. Whatever it might be, we operate under this belief of oneness. So at the root of everything, everything's connected. We are all connected. We are all on this one trans cosmic ocean liner called planet Earth.
Yep.
We've talked about it on this program numerous times. We got to start getting together on how to get together, on how to work together, on how to support each other, how to move away from that sense of competition. Might makes right, and how do we get into this? So we believe we have a spiritual solution, because there is a spiritual solution to every problem. We don't know what all of them are. We want to hear from you on this. What are your ideas? We've got an email address, ministertalk@ntmedia.org. Let us know what your ideas on how we can approach these issues: policing, healthcare, education, politics, the stock market, wealth creation, spirituality, church, all these different segments across the planet. We want to know, well, how can we bring a how can we discover the spiritual solution? How can we empower, enact, and be a part of that? And I want to kind of share one more piece here real quick. Rev Z and I are going to be starting a new podcast program for you in a few weeks here, where we take some of these topics and go a lot deeper.
Yes.
And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to look at the global vision as it is presented by the Centers for Spiritual Living. And this is a pretty hefty vision document. It outlines a vision of a world that works for everyone, and not necessarily how we can create it, but what we're looking to create. And what we're saying here today is 2021, the rest of what's left of 2020, we've got to be casting a vision for what we want to experience in 2021 and beyond, not casting a vision of, oh, we're just going to backpedal 20 years, or not, oh, we're just going to ignore and deny that that problem or that thing or that experience exists. We're going to cast a vision of what we want to experience and then meet head on everything that shows up that doesn't look like that vision.
Yeah.
So part of what we're doing here, and this is the big one, we envision a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscience in every area of the political, corporate, academic, and social sectors, providing sustainable structures to further the emerging global consciousness. We get it, that's a mouthful, right? So let's just bite off a little bit of that as we move through this season, see? And
Yeah.
you said it, we've got back to school, a traditional season where a different global virus has a tendency to rear its head. Who knows what happens when those two get together and start partying? Influenza and the COVID all together. Hey, all together now. We got school, we got flu season, we've got the return of professional sports in a bigger way. Football scheduled to start next week here in North America. And we've got the traditional holiday seasons, which are all big gatherings.
Yep.
Halloween, nobody even knows who anybody is. So how are we going to know who's sick and who isn't? Thanksgiving, huge family gatherings, people traveling all over the country to get together, or not maybe this year. And then obviously the Christmas holidays, and there's more of those than we're going to mention here because that's just a whole month of holidays.
Yep.
What's your vision, Z, for how we can move through these next several months so that we can emerge into 2021 even stronger?
Well, I think, the first thing that we have to do, and I intend to do it personally, and I think we have to do it globally, is we have to begin to contemplate first this idea of oneness, because we are one unit, one planet. Everything on this planet, and whether it's a mineral, whether it's a animal or a human animal, if you will, everything is connected. We just see how the oxygen and carbon dioxide interchange between plants and humans work. We see how the human body is made up of a large number of the minerals: gold, silver, magnesium, copper, zinc, all of these minerals that we see in the dirt and we think they're just there. Well, a lot of that stuff is in us in trace elements and some not so trace elements. And so we have to begin to look at a oneness and begin to kind of understand from a system theory and a system dynamics perspective the interrelationship between all the parts. I mean, and begin to figure out, as they say, how do we optimize the system, and beginning to think as one, to beginning to think in a spirit of oneness. That can happen because I know I can't do anything in isolation, because if everything connected, there is no isolated event that happens.
Yeah, exactly. As you're speaking, it reminds me that I am not my brother's keeper, and I am my brother's keeper.
Yes.
And you see us, folks, I get it, right? We look around and all we have is the input of video right now. Our primary input is the internet. So we see the majority of people on the internet aren't wearing masks. So we go out into the world and we think it's safe not to wear a mask. And I'm not saying that you have to have a respirator on 100% of the time that you're out in the world. And to me, it's common courtesy. I don't know that I'm sick or not. I know that I've been out with friends. I know that I've done this, and I know that I can't completely quarantine myself for 14 days every time I run into somebody I haven't been in touch with for 14 days. That's not possible in our world today. So I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that I stay healthy. And this is a both and situation, not an either or. It's not my health versus your health, Elzia. It's my health and your health.
Yes.
So I wear a mask so that if I've got it, I don't give it to you. And if you've got it, you don't give it. Hopefully, I don't catch it. But it's by working together and everyone working together,
Yeah,
that we're going to move forward.
and I think that leads for me into the next step of the next step program, if you will. Once we've got our head around the oneness and we've started moving in that direction and being more conscious of our activities and so forth, then the next thing we have to do, we have to step up, I believe, to truth. We have to start dealing with truth. Now, truth again, like truth has a range, if you will, because we're dealing in a rangy world with different things connecting. So that truth looked at from different perspectives might look a little different. But the one thing that it won't do, it won't move outside the box of truth.
Right.
If it rains, it's wet. Now, some rain may be a mist and I may get a little less wetter, and some rains may be a downpour and I may get soaked. But if it's raining, there's a range of wetness that's going to happen, if you will. and so what we have to begin to deal with truth, and not fabrications of the truth, and not ignoring the truth and any of that, because that helps support the idea of oneness. When we begin to look at the facts that support that truth, that's what happens. And I guess the second part of that is that means we all have to begin to study to some degree. One of the things we talk about in religious science, or science of mind, is that one of the first statement in the textbook says, Ernest Holmes says, I look forward to the day that science and religion can walk hand in hand, meaning that this is an inverse proportion. We're looking at the seen and the unseen, if you will. No one has ever seen gravity, but you don't see people jumping off a building saying, I don't see gravity, and it doesn't exist.
I look forward to the day when politics and science can walk hand in hand.
Amen.
It's really interesting, folks. I had a chance to attend a seminar earlier this week on politics in the ministry. And I'm going to tell you, there's very little that we're not allowed to say. I learned a lot about what, as ministers, we really are allowed to say. Because we are both the human and the divine.
Yeah.
We need you. The world needs you to vision. The world needs you to be in that spiritual place of using your practices, prayer, meditation, visioning, journaling. All of our spiritual practices now more than ever must be directed towards creating a world that we truly desire, a world that works for everyone. And we have to let go of all of this sense of separation.
Yeah.
Us versus them, red versus blue, left versus right, green versus yellow, Republican and Democrat, and a third party and an independent party and a libertarian. It's okay to have different perspectives, but those perspectives are there to help us have conversations, to enter into dialogue, not arguments, not attack, not making somebody look 20 years older in a photograph because it helps your campaign, not just spouting off whatever the hell you want to talk about because you think it's going to make people believe you and hate the other guy. We are, and I believe we are fully capable of figuring this all out together.
Yep. And the thing that you said when you gave a little bit of that goal for the organization, it's going to require, first and foremost, the first thing it says is personal responsibility.
Yeah.
That's the after we've got the oneness and we start dealing with truth, then the third step is you got to take some personal responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, I can't look at myself gaining weight and saying, "Ooh, I need to lose weight," but I'm still eating junk. I'm not exercising. I'm not watching. At some point I got to take some personal responsibility on rectifying that thing I say I don't want that's jeopardizing the whole, because I know if my body systems get overweighted, which means it's going to get overtaxed, for me, there, you know, I can be lazy and say, oh, I'm just going to take a pill or this, that, and the other. Yes, that can, you know, subdue it. But the worst, I mean, the best thing to do so that that doesn't get worse is take personal responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's what we are called to do right now as we move into this next step and move into the fall season. We got to look at we're in one. This is a oneness that we're dealing with. We have to begin to do some kind of study to find the truth about who and what we are. Then we have to take responsibility for ourselves, because that leads to the key in my mind that you said, we are both human and divine. And we have to begin to act more from our divineness and not so much from our humanness, because it is the humanness that has got us into this separation thing. I'm better, you're not. I'm richer, you're not. You know, left, right, center, all of these different ways of, as you said, gaining a perspective. We've got these tools to gain perspectives, and we've turned those perspective of a 360-degree circle. We've turned 1 degree of it into the whole thing.
Yeah.
Can't happen because you got blind spots now. If I get 1 degree of 360, I got 359 that I don't know what the heck is going on.
Exactly. Exactly. Personal responsibility joins with social conscience. Personal response, that's what we want you to remember today, right? I am personally responsible for what's going on in my life. Absolutely. But I also have a responsibility to the social sector, to the world I live in, to the world that makes it possible for me to have the luxuries and the privileges that I do. So how do I join my personal responsibility with the social conscience? Now and this is, I believe, very important, because we know deep within our hearts, we know that one God, that one power, that one presence is operating through our lives. And I can turn to that source, to that wisdom at any time, for any moment, in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And it is there that I find the conscience.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know what's right and wrong. I know when it's, just like when it's not safe to walk down a dark alley. I know, and I've walked out of restaurants in the past 4 months. I have walked out of businesses in the past 4 months because I could feel it wasn't safe.
Right.
That's social conscience.
Right. And the one thing that got me excited right there when you said that is this oneness is like electricity, or like a radio broadcast, or like, you know, the station is always in the airways. The electricity is always flowing, but you either have to tune into it or you have to cut the switch on for it to flow. And that's what we're being called to now. We have to tune our vibrational receptance to the station that we want, called oneness, one station doing its thing, or we got to turn the light on if we want the energy to flow, which means taking some responsibility to flip the switch. And when we do that, when we can tune the dial, us digital dial now, so you just got to know the number, punch in the digital number, same thing.
ntmedia.org. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And that's it. You have to begin to tune your frequency. That's another step in this. We have to tune our frequencies. We can't sit in front of CNN or Fox News or CNBC or anything and get one perspective and stay tuned to that channel, because we'll get aligned to that with no exception or no glance at anything else. And now we got a problem.
Folks, if if we really planned how the flow of these episodes go, there'd be no question this would have been our ending point. And we don't. So I love how Spirit works, because here we are right at the bottom of the hour, and we've gotten to that point, right? That is what New Thought, what LZ is talking about, is what New Thought Media is here. We're here to serve in that segment. We're here to provide an alternative to the doom and the gloom and the hate and the aggression and the attacking and my bias versus your bias. We are here to provide a bias that is spiritually oriented. We're here to be God's propaganda machine. We're here, New Thought Media Network, to provide opportunity throughout the day, every day, to be in spiritual community, to be in a spiritual consciousness, to be in that consciousness of the oneness, so we can start to bring that oneness even more to the forefront of social life, of social construct, of all the systems in our lives. So I'm going to say thank you on behalf of myself and Reverend Z for being with us today. And thank you to New Thought Media Network for giving us this platform. And thank you to viewers and listeners like you for your donations, your tithes, your gifts, your offerings. Your financial support makes all of this happen. Whether it's $1, $10, or 10 grand, we're going to say thank you, and you get to write it off on your taxes. So thanks for donating to New Thought Media Network. There's a link in the show description. And please sign up for our newsletter. There's also a link in the description there. Sign up for the newsletter. You'll get each week's schedule, upcoming events, new programs that are coming on board, as well as ways to interact and engage with our community. Finally, before we go, remember, we do have Minister Talk at ntmedia.org. Send us an email. Tell us what you'd like to hear more about. Tell us what you enjoy about this program, and tell us where we can do better, because we want to bring you spiritually inspired conversations. We do that every Friday, 7 a.m. Mountain Time, here on the New Thought Media Network. So, Z, I think we wrap this one up. Great conversation. Thanks for being with us, sir.
Always.
And thank you again to everyone out there. So on behalf of all of us here at the New Thought Media Network, this is Ministers Talking Shit. Go out and make it a great day. Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings. Love, light, and insight.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and